Today, we're looking at Diamine's Raw Sienna. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Diamine's Raw Sienna is a brown ink. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples, I put the ink into a different pen for a day, I then put it into a cross Bailey with a medium nib to take my notes for this video. Now, before we get to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see this very light purple across the bottom. And it pushes its way up and we start to see some oranges, the brown, and then this very bright blue comes in. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And what we see is that purple is much more condensed at the bottom, a little bit more of that orange stays, but the brown still pushes up, the orange still pushed up with it, and that very light blue still very across the top. The only spot in the chromatography we're really seeing it come out. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on a page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pen. Now, I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it handles it incredibly well. That extra fine is still an extra fine. It's not blown out. It's not feathery at all. It makes me feel very safe using it. Water removed all the brown and left this kind of gray tone behind. It was really quite odd. It's not what I'm seeing in the chromatography, but it is definitely this grayish tone that's left behind. Pen Flush to the rescue. It's completely removing it from the paper. We're easily seeing the white of the paper, easily seeing the dots of the Rhodia dot pad, making Pen Flush all that you would truly need to get this out of your pen. But the 1/3 bleach solution totally removed it from the paper, even though there's no need for you to use it. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Diamine's Raw Sienna has a viscosity of 2.03, making it slightly wetter than normal. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done with the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Diamine's Raw Sienna has an average dry time of 17 seconds, making it average, not just normal, but average. Now, let's look at the writing samples. I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen. It has some nice spots of shading where we do see it's a nice dark tone here, but we get lighter areas, like a little bit in the downstroke of Raw, a little bit in the S of Sienna, but mostly it's a very dark tone. Not a lot of shading going on with the 1.1, but there is a little bit there. The extra fine is much lighter tone. It has no feather, spread, halo sheen, and it offers fantastic shading. We see shading inside the F, where it goes light to light again. The starts very light, gets dark, gets light at the top of the H, dark back down again. Quick goes dark to medium to dark to light to dark. Beautiful all the way through all of the writing, and only 11 seconds to dry. Now the medium gives the same tone as the extra fine. The medium has no feather, spread, halo sheen, beautiful shading. I love it. This is one of the reasons I just love brown inks. They tend to shade so well. Look at how it goes light to dark to light to dark to light on both sides of it. Darken the part of the Q where it come up and start to come down again. The U is a nice mid-tone. The I is dark. The C is light. The K is dark. It's beautiful all over this writing. 16 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both shows plenty of color variation, and we got tons of color variation. And the smear test, you could definitely recover this if you smeared while you were writing. Tomoe River, no bleeding, we get, not as bad a ghosting. There's ghosting, but it's not too bad for Tomoe River. The 1.1 is a very dark tone. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It has some horribly messy writing on the word raw. I don't know. But it's a beautiful tone, especially with this cream background color. Nice. The extra fine, a noticeably lighter tone. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and it does give us shading. Something Tomoe River doesn't do very well. But we get light to dark and it stays dark. We get dark to light and then it goes dark again. Brown is a nice mid-tone all the way through, and Fox goes from light to dark. Fantastic. 18 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and beautiful shading. Again, in the very light, dark at the bottom of the T, light up into the H, very dark on the E. The Q in quick starts very dark on the left side of all of it, like there's a line here, and then it's light. It gets very dark for the rest of quick. Brown starts very dark and gets light. Beautiful, all the way through, all of it. 24 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine shows a lot of color variation, which I got. The medium doesn't show as much color variation. I got a lot more color variation in the writing sample than I did the scrubby. But the smear test, you couldn't recover this if you smeared while you were writing. Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen. It has some spots of shading, like we saw in the Clairefontaine, just some spots. Like part of the R is a little lighter, part of the S is a little lighter, and that's it. So that might be me being a little lighter on the page in those spots, since it's so consistent with the Clairefontaine. That might be just the way that I write that's bringing that out there. The extra fine is a noticeably lighter tone with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, beautiful shading throughout all of the writing. Light to dark, it stays dark. Dark to light, and it gets super dark again. Then we get this nice light spot between the C and the K, and then it gets super dark. Brown starts very light and then it stays very dark. Fox goes light to dark again. Beautiful. 13 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen. Beautiful shading again. Absolutely gorgeous stuff. Quick goes dark to very dark, and when we got that very dark, it gets medium tone, dark again. Wonderful. Fox goes from very light to very dark. The has some very nice light areas in it. It's fantastic. 17 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us plenty of color variation, and we got plenty of color variation. In the smear test, you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing. So white lines paper. There's a lot of bleed spots through. It does not make the back of the page unusable in the medium or the extra fine, but the 1.1, I don't think you'd be happy with the back of the page. It does not touch the page underneath. Doesn't make the back of the page completely unusable. The 1.1 has no spread. It's got some minor feathering around, like I see up here with inside the R, I see some feathering. Inside the D here and here I see some feathering. The E feathered a whole lot. The end of the A feathered a whole lot. So there's a bunch of feathering with the 1.1. No halo, sheen, no shade. The extra fine has no feather or spread or halo, sheen, and no shading, not on this paper. 2 seconds to dry. It absorbs very fast. The medium is a darker tone than we got with the extra fine. It's really the tone we got with the 1.1. I think I forgot to mention that on the extra fine. It's slightly lighter, but it becomes darker again on the medium. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. 4 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both shows no color variation. We didn't expect it. We didn't get it. And the smear test you could definitely recover if you smeared while you were writing. So original crown mill. We have some bleed spots going on. Where it's coming in very heavy through the page, but not all the way through the page. Even the scrubby, it's not all the way through the page, but it's very deep into it. I don't worry about the scrubby for that sort of thing, but it's, we got spots. It would not make the back of the page unusable. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shading whatsoever here. The extra fine is a noticeably lighter tone. No feather, spread, halo, sheen, gorgeous shading. Light to dark, dark to light to dark, 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 medium, light, dark,
beautiful. Fox goes from light to dark. It's like it's showing the color variation table where you're doing your tones from white to black and it's coming across in all the shades of gray. That's how this transitions into the dark. Wonderful. 6 seconds to dry. The medium is a darker tone than the extra fine, almost as dark as the 1.1. The medium has no feather, spread, halo sheen, and it maintains some of that shading that we've seen. Like in Quick, it goes from dark to a mid-tone to dark, mid-tone in the middle, and then back to dark. Fox goes from a mid-tone to dark. There's no lights that show up here. Okay? And 10 seconds to dry. The Scrubby for both show us some color variation, although the medium not very much at all, but we do get some up here. Plenty of color variation in the extra fine. We got plenty. The smear test, you could definitely recover this if you smeared while you were writing. P. Berger, it's a French rule. It's a student grade paper. It has a lot of bleeding. The result of the amount of bleeding means ghosting doesn't even matter because you could not use the back of the page. The 1.1 has feather, it has spread, it has no halo sheen and no shade. Does not look good. The extra fine has some spread, has some tiny feathers all over it, but they're really tiny feathers. They're not going to show up on camera, but when I'm looking close, I see it. No halo sheen, no shade. 3 seconds to dry. The medium is a darker tone than we see with the extra fine, really on tone with what we see with the 1.1. The medium has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. 6 seconds to dry. It's the best performing on the page. And when we look at a smear, it looks like it was the wettest. Very strange. The Scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it, and we didn't get it. And the smear test, you might, that's a might, be able to recover that if you smeared while you were writing. That is all that I have for the writing.
Instead of finding inks that look like Diamine's Raw Sienna, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. And I wanted a nice dusty green. I chose Birmingham Pen Company's Schenley Park Thicket Green. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Diamine's Raw Sienna? Now, siennas and umbers tend to be among my favorite brown inks. They give this very nice old world feel to them. And this is definitely a tone that feels that it matches in that. It makes it a brown that I very much enjoy using. I'm very happy that I got this as a sample to try it out because there's so many inks out there that I just couldn't get it as a bottle. There's too many bottles then in my life. But this is a good ink. Thanks for watching.